The sun was blazing high in the sky that day, casting a brilliant light over everything it touched. The sky stretched out endlessly, blue and flawless, but in stark contrast. There was a heavy, suffocating gloom on Gao Tu's face. The moment his eyes landed on Shen WenLang, the man he had once loved, the man he had abandoned without a word, every trace of color drained from his face. His body reacted before his mind could catch up. He clutched the child in his arms tighter, his instincts screaming at him to step back, to run, to escape. For Shen WenLang, this was the moment he had played over in his head 10,000 times. Every possibility, every word, every reaction. And yet, standing here, finally seeing his Omega again after all these years, he was still struck with such raw, unbearable emotion. But Shen WenLang had always been a man of control. He reminded himself that he could not falter now. With great restraint, he forced his stiff muscles to move. He leaned down and gently handed the little boy his godson, affectionately called Little Peanut, into the arms of the nanny. Peanut hesitated, glancing back at Shen WenLang with wide, worried eyes. In his young memory, he had never once seen his godfather lose control. But right now, there was something sharp and dangerous simmering in Shen WenLang's expression. His handsome face was rigid. His jaw was clenched so tightly it looked painful, and the veins in his neck stood out as he tried to hold back the storm raging within him. "What do you want to do?" The cold voice cut through the tense air. Someone had stepped forward, blocking Shen WenLang's burning gaze that was locked on Gao Tu. It was Ma Heng. WenLang's eyes narrowed immediately, recognition flashing across them. The alpha who stood protectively in front of Gao Tu was none other than the man who had taken him away all those years ago. The atmosphere crackled with hostility. Ma Heng's expression was equally fierce, his body taut with defiance. He knew exactly who Shen WenLang was. This was no ordinary alpha. This was the powerful, dangerous man who had forced them into exile. Because of Shen WenLang, he and Gao Tu had been driven far from home, into a foreign land where they had to start over with nothing. And now, even after all these years, this man still hadn't given up. He dared to stand here, looking at Gao Tu as though nothing had changed, as though Gao Tu still belonged to him. In Ma Heng's eyes, Shen WenLang was not just a threat, he was a thief of happiness. A monster who had branded Gao Tu as his and refused to let him live freely. But in Shen WenLang's mind, it was the opposite. To him, Ma Heng was the thief. The shameless alpha who had stolen his Omega, stolen his chance at love, stolen years of his life searching in agony. Song Fai, who had accompanied them, stood silently at the side. She did not understand the full history between these men, but even an outsider could feel the intensity. Gao Tu's fear, his trembling voice, Ma Heng's hostility, Shen WenLang's oppressive aura, it all painted a clear picture of a bond that was far too complicated, far too painful to be easily resolved. At that moment, a fragile voice broke through the tension. "Dad." The child in Gao Tu's arms, Gao Lila, was watching everything unfold with wide, innocent eyes. He saw his father's face twisted in fear, saw the sweat dripping down his pale skin, and felt the way Gao Tu's body shook against his. Lele was only a child, but he was sensible. He had grown up knowing his father's body was frail, that his health was never strong. So even though he longed to stay and play at the amusement park, he could see his father's suffering and put his own wishes aside. Gently, he lifted his small sleeve and wiped the sweat from Gao Tu's forehead. In a soft, trembling voice, he whispered, "Dad, if you don't feel well, let's go home first." His words were filled with maturity far beyond his years. And then, Shen WenLang spoke. His voice was low, hoarse, almost breaking. "Gao Tu!" He stepped forward, his eyes fixed not on Gao Tu, but on the boy in his arms. "Is that my child?" The world seemed to freeze. Gao Tu's reaction was immediate, too immediate. His voice cracked as he shouted, "No!" His body lurched backward, his grip tightening around Lele, as though someone was trying to snatch him away. The lie stung like a blade twisting into Shen WenLang's chest. Why? Why would Gao Tu deny it so fiercely? Why would he look at him with such terror in his eyes? Why did it feel like every word, every movement was meant to push him further away? Shen Wenlang's heart throbbed with a pain so deep it felt suffocating. He wanted to reach out, to tell Gao Tu that he would never hurt him, never hurt their child. But every time his Omega's eyes flickered with fear, it felt like another shackle pulling him down into despair. Lella felt his father trembling and did what only a child could. He hugged him back with all his strength. Even though Gao Tu's embrace was suffocating, even though his small body could barely breathe, he pressed his cheek to his father's and whispered, "Dad, let's go back. I don't want to play anymore." Finally, Gao Tu nodded weakly, his voice barely audible. "Okay, let's go back." But when he tried to move, Shen Wenling stepped forward, his tall figure blocking the way like an immovable mountain. Behind him, his bodyguards had already restrained Maheng, pinning him down with ease. "You scumbag!" Maheng spat out, struggling against the guards. "Stay away from the little rabbit." The words made Shen Wenling freeze. His head turned sharply, his eyes narrowing like blades. "Little rabbit?" He repeated the name, his tone low and dangerous, as though he was tasting something forbidden. The intimate nickname churned in his chest, filling him with a mix of jealousy, anger, and possessiveness. The storm inside him grew darker. Maheng tried again, shouting, "He's already like this. What else do you want? Do you want to force him to death?" But his resistance was meaningless. The oppressive force of Shen Wenling's pheromones swept over him like a tidal wave. His knees buckled, his face twisted in agony, and if not for the bodyguards holding him in place, he would have collapsed completely. Shen Wenling's aura was suffocating, his predatory glare fixed on the man who dared stand between him and Gao Tu. To Maheng, it felt like being devoured alive. And then, "Stop!" Gao Tu's desperate voice cut through the air. For the first time, Shen Wenling faltered. He turned to look at him, and in that moment, Gao Tu's fear was not for himself, but for Maheng. "Shen Wenling," he pleaded breathlessly. "Our business has nothing to do with him. Let him go." The word "we" hung in the air. Our business. For Shen Wenling, those two words were like salvation. In that moment, it was as if Gao Tu had acknowledged that they still belonged to each other. That no matter what had happened, no matter how far Gao Tu had run, the bond between them was something no outsider could touch. But still. Shen Wenling saw the way Gao Tu's face drained of color just by looking at him. He saw the trembling in his hands, the terror in his eyes. He did not want to frighten him any further. He took a slow breath, forcing himself to calm down. His expression softened, his voice lowered. "Gao Tu, why are you hiding from me?" The question pierced straight through the silence. For Gao Tu, the memories he had buried deep began to stir. The warmth of Shen Wenling's embrace, the scorching heat of his kisses, the passion that had once burned so bright between them. He had spent years trying to push it all away, to lock it behind walls in his heart. He had convinced himself that those feelings belonged to the past, to their school days, to a dream that could never survive in the real world. But standing here now, facing him again, Gao Tu's chest ached with the weight of everything unsaid. Shen Wenling's eyes softened further as he stepped closer. "Don't hide from me. Come here, let's talk." He was still the same as Gao Tu remembered, tall, handsome, exuding dominance that felt impossible to resist. And yet now there was something new in his gaze. Pain, caution, a gentleness that clashed with his powerful aura. But Gao Tu couldn't allow himself to believe it. He held his child tighter, his heart pounding like a trapped bird. Why? Why did Shen Wenling refuse to let him go, even after he had crossed oceans to escape? What did he want? Was he afraid that Gao Tu and his son would one day come back to claim a piece of his empire? The questions burned inside him, but the fear was stronger. And so, the painful reunion hung suspended in that fragile moment filled with longing, fear, and the heavy weight of love that had never truly died. How will Gao Tu face the past he tried to escape? Can Shen Wenling break through the walls Gao Tu has built around his heart? And most importantly,
Will they ever truly be together again?
If you are moved by this heart-wrenching reunion, don't forget to like this video and share it with fellow fans who love ABO stories.
Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next chapter of Gao 2 in WenLang's journey. Part 2 will reveal the next shocking twists in their story. Trust me, you won't want to miss it. Comment below.
How do you think Gao 2 is really feeling? And what would you do if you were in Shen WenLang's shoes?